Thanks for joining us today. Welcome in. Today we're going to talk about lessons from the Eurythmics, shifting from growth to depth, mind mapping job descriptions, and a really cool development tool. Hi, Derek.
Hi, Danielle. How are you?
I'm fine.
Great.
How are you?
Oh, good. Good.
Good.
Yeah, we're coming down the home stretch this week, so that's always
what?
good. I mean, I don't know.
We're always coming down the home stretch every week.
Of a week.
Okay. Okay.
Although I do feel like
did it again.
I've come out of a very busy season.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching a lot of classes.
Yeah.
So in addition to everything else, I think I had 3 classes going for the last 6 weeks.
Oh yeah. That's
So everything just kind of wrapped up on that, which is nice. And they've been awesome
Yeah.
too. So it's like bucket filling
Yeah,
and also
sure.
bucket draining.
Yeah.
Just because it's
You'll
time
start
and
to
the
feel it.
extra
Yeah.
evenings and
Yeah.
I haven't had evening stuff this much since I was a youth pastor, I feel like.
Oh, man, those days.
It's a lot of evenings.
Oh, man, you really lose that muscle. I'll tell
Yeah,
you what.
yeah,
When someone asks me to do something on a Wednesday, I'm like, what? No.
A what day?
No, I don't. No. No, thank you. Hey, so I thought we could talk about something interesting maybe.
Oh, okay.
So as some of you may know, we do like a really big Christmas program for our city.
Yeah.
At Historic Theater downtown, a Warner Theater downtown. And every year I start to have like a series of dreams like leading up to it.
Yeah.
It always happens. And so I have my first one. And
This is 10 years we've been doing this.
It's like, it feels like higher stakes than normal. It's
Right.
probably, it's not, but it's just the pressure we put on ourselves, right?
But this was your idea like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You brought this to the table. So we've been.
Yeah, I was sitting at a table with Brian Lusky and we were like, what about this? And everyone laughed for like a solid 10 minutes. And then we ended up doing it that year, like 2 months later.
And here we are 10 years later and still doing it.
Yeah, that's why like when we get into it, I'm like, we did this the first time with like 2 months notice.
Right.
We're fine.
Right.
We'll get
we're
there.
fine.
We'll get there.
But it's a lot of work. I
It's
mean,
a ton of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a huge stage.
Yeah.
And so you can't do some rinky dink
No,
thing on a big stage.
you got to really scale
we
everything
get,
up.
6,000 or 8,000 people that come out to it and, 4 or 5 services across those 2 days. And so, but the whole city comes out. It's been wild to see it grow and
It's crazy. And you just feel, well, you feel it more probably, but you just feel like the weight of
the weight. Yeah.
it.
So are these dreams premonitions or what?
No,
what kind of
dreams? They're just, so the reason I wanted to bring up this dream today is because again, our mascot was involved. So I get to the Warner, but the problem is the Warner is our 300 person old worship center on 38th Street.
Oh,
that's the seating.
Okay.
But the stage is the Warner stage.
This is your dream.
This is my dream.
Okay.
So I walk in and I'm like, okay. I'm like, we're going to need chairs, I'm like not panicking, but I'm like, but then I notice there's like stuff everywhere. Everything's piled up on all the front of house tables and stuff. There's like glitter, sequins. There's all this weird stuff. And I look and there's this person laying on the bench. Guess who it is? Taylor Swift.
Oh my!
She's listening.
You have a problem.
No, I know. She's listening and she's like, Danielle, I like this. She's like listening to the opener. She's like, this is good. I think this is fine. And I'm like, okay, great, cool. And it was just like she was a normal volunteer. It was just like totally normal. And so we're walking around. She's like, hey, I can do whatever you need. Like, give me like whatever assignment, whatever. Tour me around and then we'll figure it out. And then she's like, talking all casual. She's like, probably the best thing I can do is help Maddie with the stems. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And then Travis is taking pictures with Carlin and Daryl.
Oh, okay.
And he comes in, he's
they're
like,
taking pictures of him or he's behind the camera?
They're doing like capture team. They're like going around taking pictures of
They're
volunteers.
not taking pictures of Travis Kelce.
Travis has
he's
a camera.
on the capture team.
Yeah. And he comes over to me, he's like, I don't think this is for me. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Do something else. So then he starts bringing in chairs with John Phillips and they're doing stuff. So I don't know, it's just
the setup crew.
Yeah. And so I think the actual point of the dream is as the dream progresses, everything's getting more and more cluttered. There's just stuff everywhere. I'm like constantly moving stuff to like set down a computer and that's what it was. It was just like anxiety producing, just like stuff everywhere. Too much stuff, too much chaos. And then it ended with Taylor talking to me. And she was like, hey, I've been thinking about it and I don't think you need my consent for this. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, with the baby and everything. And I was like, well, no, we're not talking about your baby, like as if she's pregnant. I'm like, we're not talking about your baby. The baby we're talking about is Jesus. And she's like, oh, yeah, okay, then we're good. I'm like, yeah, we're good. And that was like how it ended.
Okay.
So, okay.
So I have a couple of thoughts.
Okay, great. Dream interpretation.
Do we have to talk about idolatry?
No.
Danielle.
Go ahead.
You seem obsessed.
I'm actually not. I'm actually not. But yeah, I don't know. I have been listening to her music.
Okay. All right. I have not.
Her new one. So, okay, my question for you, that was a long intro there, but like, what is your like take on dreams? Do you think, just hot take on dreams in general?
So around my family, I have been known to be a fairly accurate dream interpreter.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Because I do think our minds work themselves out in dreams.
Yeah.
And so like, I do think they are connected. I'm not like big into prophetic dreams or anything like that. I don't think we foretell the future or something. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can. I mean, the Bible talks about that happening. Yeah. So I think it can happen, but I don't think that's what usually happens. Yeah. I think what usually happens is our minds working stuff out. Yeah. And picking from symbols and pictures and things from our past and all that kind of stuff. And I do think that there are general like symbols that represent certain things, and so, so whenever my kids have a dream, they always bring it to Dad, cool. and we do like a whole thing. Well, that's cool. And some of them are, they're obvious to me, but they're not obvious to the person. And I think
that's normal. Yeah. Like you say it out loud to another person, the other person's like, well, that's because you're this.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of funny.
When but you dream,
I don't dream much.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm actually concerned because I'm starting to get algorithm stuff of like, if you don't dream, that's really bad because your body's not sleeping well. Like you're not getting to REM sleep, which probably means you have apnea or something like that, which is also not good for you. So. No. So I actually have a little bit of anxiety around dreams right now because I'm like, I probably should be dreaming more and I'm not anymore. Yeah. But
did you ever though?
I did sometimes. Yeah. I've never been a big dreamer. Yeah. But sometimes I do have a recurring one from my childhood of two. One, I was walking through like a modern zoo. Okay. I'm not a big animal person, but for whatever reason, I'm in this like it's all white hallways, very stark. It's an inside outside. So like they're glass containers that all the animals are in or whatever, and it just never ends. Like I can never get through it. Oof. The other one is kind of the opposite. It's a baseball field and I get a hit. I hit the ball and I'm running to first base and keep falling down and can't get to make it to first base. Like I can't, like I stand up and stumble again and stand up and stumble again and can never quite get there. So these are deep. Yeah, there's deep interpretive. There is. Yeah, I'm sure. Is. But those are. Yeah. But I don't dream. When I do, it's usually meaningful. Like
that's for me too. They're either like so profoundly weird that I remember them. Weird, terrifying, or I'm remembering it because it's like means something.
I don't have many terrifying ones.
I do.
Do you?
It's been a long time though.
Yeah.
We went through a stint there where you were like, "Do we have to bring holy water to your house?"
Oh, right.
Because that was bad though. That was something weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are we doing? Okay.
And there are actually, I've had a lot of conversations recently about people that have been having dreams and different stuff. Like so. Yeah, I don't know what's happening, but
something young man. What's the? Isn't there like a young man? Dreaming dreams.
Oh, dreaming dreams.
Like end times thing or whatever.
Visions, exactly.
Oh, so maybe you'll see visions because you're old. Instead of dreams.
Well, I've graduated to visions.
He's never going to sleep. The guy's never going to sleep. Let's just move him up to visions. Okay, thanks for indulging me. I just wanted to share my dream basically with you.
Love it.
Okay, so we're going to move to our Reinventing Church topic for today. And this season, again, we're talking about the 11 shifts every church must make to be effective in our current cultural reality. And we'll start with something from Dave and Shane. But I'm excited today because we're going to get to talk about shifting from growth to depth with our own Pastor Sarah Burtt. Sarah is our pastor of content here at Grace. So she's very much in the genesis of like sermon series development. She does a lot of curriculum work. Her background is in teaching. And so she's just
creates our YouVersion stuff.
Which is super impactful. Sarah's just become one of my favorite people. She's a great, deep thinker and just really awesome to have on the team. So we're going to talk to her about moving from growth to depth. Also, not secret, but like thing about Sarah is she's in your book Untapped as one of the prime examples of what a high capacity volunteer can look like. So she's in our office, our programming office, 30 to 40 hours a week.
Yeah, she's a full-time employee.
She's a full-time employee.
As a
Everyone
volunteer.
treats her like so, and she acts like so. So so it'd be cool to talk to Sarah for a little bit.
I was introduced to a metaphor recently from Andrew Hurd's book, Growth and Change, that I have found just kind of turning over and over in my mind. And it was introduced to me in the form of a question. And the question is this: are you burdened to build a bigger barn, or are you burdened for the field? Are you burdened to build a bigger barn, or are you burdened for the field? Barns are focused on keeping what's been gathered and gathering in more. Fields represent what is still growing and yet what is still yet to come. And it's a simple image, but I think it names attention, at least it has for me, that I think most church leaders feel. We often spend an enormous amount of energy building the barn, growing the attendance, growing giving, growing program participation, while the fields are white with harvests. And as Jesus said, and the workers are few. And I feel like, that idea of the fields being white with harvest is so true of our cultural moment today. And here's the thing: attendance and giving and program participation, those numbers, they matter, but they don't tell us the whole story, do they? They're not a great marker of success on mission. Jesus didn't say, go and make worship attenders. He said, go and make disciples. And so the question I don't think is just how many are showing up, but how are they growing up? What are they becoming? Not just what are they attending or what are they participating in? And if you think about it for a moment, all through the book of Acts, we see the people of God increasing in number, but that increase came as a result of God's people living and multiplying a Jesus-like way of life. That's the pattern, even maybe the sequence that is worth recovering. And I would say I'm encouraged to see that in churches that at least we're engaging with, we get a chance to work with around the country. There's a shift from a focus on just growing bigger to, I think, rediscovering some ancient practices of spiritual formation, things like silence and Sabbath and simplicity and scripture meditation and fixed hours of prayer. And in many ways, we're seeing that like a younger generation are really resonating with these kind of things. And I do think it's a needed shift, especially after decades of kind of seeker-sensitive kind of programs or sometimes what was purely cognitive kind of gospel centrality. There's this hunger for a faith that feels rooted and holistic and transformative in daily life. Now, while this is helpful, history reminds us that it's very easy to overcorrect. Have you found that? And so here's the thing: formation that never overflows into mission risks becoming kind of self-focused, kind of an inner project that can lead to a spirituality that I think sometimes is fixed kind of on this kind of me and Jesus kind of fixation. And that's one of the reasons that when we come alongside at Clarity House church teams, we often help them identify first a compelling, identity-based, biblically grounded picture of what maturity looks like so that we have a target of knowing what are we actually trying to form people into. And we call this their dream disciple. It's the kind of disciples of Jesus that their church is intentionally designed to develop and deploy that their local community, their city desperately needs more of. I can give a couple examples of this. I just was with Wawasee Bible Church in rural Indiana, and they're raising up disciples of Jesus who live as, now grab this, they live as secure sons and daughters, courageous connectors, ready storytellers, and legacy builders. They want to see this, second, third, fourth generation. Or I think of Menlo Church in San Francisco Bay Area, a multi-site church, and they're helping people embody what they call 4 kingdom priorities of living as, now grab this, living as an undivided follower, an unhurried friend, picture that in the Bay Area, thoughtful witnesses, and sacrificial developers. That sacrificial developers is their discipling language, and it fits well in their context of Silicon Valley. But here's why. They care so deeply about the fields, not just the barns. They're raising the bar of what growing in depth should result in. And they connect formation, being undivided followers or unhurried friends, with multiplication, thoughtful witnesses and sacrificial developers. And I think what's helpful here is they describe what we might call a 4-dimensional kind of disciple, someone who is living upward in relationship with God, inward in relationship with his people, outward in relationship to the world around them, and also forward towards multiplication in relation to a second, a third, and even a fourth generation. And I think this is what we see Jesus modeled in his life and his ministry, where formation and mission were never separated. I mean, think about it. Follow me and fish for men. Abide in me and bear fruit. Receive and give. Be with me and be sent. I mean, the inflow of the one always led to the overflow of the other. And the overflow, it was fueled by the inflow. So at its core, I think this shift of growing bigger to deepening in depth is really about living in relationship and response to King Jesus. And I've found 2 just really simple discipling questions that really kind of stir that kind of formation growth are simply this: what is Jesus saying to you? And what are you doing about it? What is Jesus saying to you? And what are you doing about it? And if I'm alongside someone asking that, then whatever they say is, how can I help? And when those kind of 3 questions become the kind of the heartbeat of a church, I think the formation's finish line is not then just living with Jesus, but it's also living for Jesus. And so that times of prayer lead to moments of proclamation, and that Sabbathing is restorative, but it leads to sacrificial serving, and that fasting is powerful, but it also leads to feasting with sinners. And I think we see this idea of this growth to depth is not really an either or, right? In fact, I have a hard time even articulating it as an either or. I just think it's a both and, but I do think one better serves the other. So the sequence of them really matters. I mean, Jesus, think about it. He wanted growth in numbers and he wanted growth in depth. I mean, Luke, through the book of Acts, is tracking both. And even think about the Apostle Paul. I mean, think about this. In Ephesians 2:17 and Colossians 1:28, he describes God's mysterious plan for the church as both extensive and intensive. It's extensive because the gospel reaches those who are far off. It's concerned and longing and burdened for the field. And it's intensive because in Colossians, Paul says he desires to present everyone mature in Christ. And so maturity is not merely gauged then by participation in worship or group, but increasingly living with Jesus and for Jesus with our lips and our lives and our relationships. And I think that's the real shift from growth to depth. It's actually a depth of formation that leads to a growth in numbers, but the number is new followers of Jesus. So let me ask it again. Are you burdened to build bigger barns, or are you burdened for the fields? Because how you answer that question will determine the type of discipling culture that you create and that you multiply.
Well, that was great from Shane. We're excited to be here with our very own Sarah Burtt. Hi,
Sarah Burtt.
Sarah has been very deeply involved in a lot of things here at Grace over the years, but especially right now, just reinventing kind of the way we train and what our discipleship pathway looks like and all those things as we're reinventing our own church in our Wake Lake vision. So excited to talk to you about this today.
Thanks,
You're a perfect
Sarah.
person to talk to.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah.
It's great.
We have like our own expert on our own staff.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So let's start. So let's dive in because I'm sure you're going to have a lot of wise things to say. I want to give you time. Derek, first, let's just talk about just lay of the land. Why do you think it's easier for churches to chase this numerical growth idea versus this depth idea?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I really do think it comes down to it's easier.
It's easier.
It's easier to measure head counts than it is to measure actual change that somebody's making in their life. And that you're so reliant on informal data gathering. So story, is it really happening? And versus actually coming up with real tangible ways to measure. So people that are in trying to measure things, it's just easy to go, yeah, we got 5 more people than we had last week, so it's a win.
And it feels good.
And it feels good. Yeah, I think there's something about us that wants to feel like we're winning. And so it's much harder to know, are people actually growing? Are they deepening their love for Jesus? Like, how do you measure that?
I mean, the amount of hours that we've spent in meetings just talking about that question.
Right.
And like experts that we brought on staff and stuff.
Yep.
We're not there. We haven't figured it out yet. We're figuring it out.
Right.
But it does take a lot.
It does take a lot. And so part of it is literally just it's easier.
Right.
It's easier to count the people in the room and go, are there more this week than last week?
And it is a measure of
It is, yeah. That
of
we shouldn't
momentum
stop measuring
and
that.
you need both.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I do think that, what we're talking about today does shift the conversation from just how many people are in the room, because it's the quantitative versus qualitative thing, that there is, even just in the way we're approaching those rooms, a qualitative change in how we are. And I think, again, I'm sure we'll get into this, but like, I think even just some of the early results that we're feeling from like the training environments that we're creating are, for me, it has blown my mind that when we actually are giving people skills and not just new information, but skills, that they're changing.
Yeah.
It's actually changing their lived reality of their day-to-day life with Jesus and with their friends. And like, so again, hard to measure, hard to quantify, but like from a qualitative standpoint, I just feel like there is enough evidence even early on for us that this shift is going to be well worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's jump into that.
Yeah.
So you've been obviously involved in a lot of this curriculum development and things, even over the years, like reading plans and stuff like that. What principles, like as Derek's talking about this and we're thinking through this, what are guiding your design decisions nowadays? So we're moving from information transfer to transformation. So like, what does that look like?
Yeah. And I do think we've been doing that for a while, just trying to think of how the things that we're resourcing and supporting individuals and groups with is more than just, I'm building my Bible knowledge and I could take a quiz and get a good answer.
Pass the quiz.
And trust me, I like to get, I like a good quiz.
Right.
Like, give me some
this
old
is
school
ironic
sword
coming from
drills.
you.
Yeah. But like making people, forcing people, or inviting people, I guess would maybe be more to be more reflective internally and externally. So I think about like our reading plans, for example. It used to be that we just like give people scriptures and ask a bunch of questions. And now the structure is more like, okay, read. We're starting with scripture still. Here's a couple ways to reflect. Those reflection questions are leading them from like, okay, just observe to like, what would this mean? What does this mean to like, okay, now ask yourself, how does this apply to me in my life? Where do I see this in my life? Where do I need to confess, depending on the scripture? And then prompting what will I do next? Like, what is my next step? How do I take this from here to there? And so that's like a simple structure, but even building in there opportunities for people to flex a muscle that maybe they haven't had. Like, how do you sin? Well, that might be a no-brainer for someone, and somebody else is like, So like, here's the 3 simple steps to like, how to pause for a prayer of confession right now and receive the forgiveness of Jesus. Like embedding that, writing that in, teaching people how to pray, those kinds of things, and making next steps not like big lofty. I'm going to go change the world for Jesus.
Yeah.
Now, who's the one person that you can reach out to and say, I'm sorry today?
Yeah.
If that's the thing. So things like that in like an individual reading plan, and then transferring that to a group. The larger structure would be like, how does the group connect? How's the group growing together? And then how is the group then going to go and live this out? So if our mission is following Jesus as we live out God's story every day, everywhere, we want these times in either the group or the chair to be like a fueling station, just like a Sunday morning is the fuel. And you can measure how many people stop at the gas station to fuel up their car.
That's good.
But like, it's fueling them for somewhere. It's fueling them for something. It's fueling them for someone. And so hopefully not just information and inspiration, but also sending them out this compelling thing of like, I can do this at home. I can do this in my workplace. I can do this. So I hope that answers.
Yeah, and I think my personal greatest surprise, one of the greatest surprises in this whole thing, is that we're similar in this way, and you are too. People are not, I guess, naturally like introspective.
Right.
And like to have you say like, oh, now how does this apply to me? Like that's not just something people, all people do. Some people do. But like it felt so simple for you probably to like break that down. But it has been transforming people's experience with those tools for sure.
Yeah, and one of the phrases that I think was so helpful from Dave when he originally worked with us was, we've talked about it on this podcast before, but the move from wow to aha.
Yes. Yes.
And so, like, do we want our people going, wow, Derek or Sarah, really knows the Bible, and that was a really great sermon, or that was a really great class that I was at? Or do we want them to go, aha, I can do that?
Yeah.
And I think, as even just for us shifting how we present things and going, like, you can do this. This is not like, come and watch us do all the spiritual gymnastics and clap at the end that how great we were. But it's like, no, we want to frame this in a way that you can do it.
Yeah.
So talk about how just spiritual rhythms and practices, how we've built that into our resources so that they form people, not just inform people. So why don't you just talk a little about how we build that stuff in these days, or how you're thinking about it as you're writing material or curriculum? Or
yeah. I think some of that is small shifts, small changes in how you prompt, how you transition. Even if it's an individual reading plan, you're transitioning somebody from one thing to the next, from reading scripture to asking a question or what. I think there's some small things you do. I think of something as simple as just pause and take 3 deep breaths. Right? There's like something, scientifically breathing is pretty important.
Yep.
And it's
right up
but
there.
like something like that.
Top 3. Yeah.
But something like that, there's a shift in the brain to then receive differently, what's about to come at you. And I think that's like a subtle, not a big like whatever, but puts you in a posture where you're ready to receive. So any like small shift that's going to do that, that's going to slow somebody down, give space for silence, like ask an open-ended question and let it hang there for a minute. Like training life group leaders, for example, and you don't have to fill in every gap, of silence with words. Like it's not necessarily more words. Maybe it's more pause and reflection and prayer. So I do think there's like some little bit of that like simple, and those come out of spiritual rhythms and disciplines, that people have been practicing for thousands of years. But I don't know that we've done them in community as well as maybe people have done them individually. And so trying to incorporate some of those kinds of things into community practices. I think we've done a lot of, we do this in preaching, we do this in teaching, we do this in training, where we allow people to express their own barriers or their own, what's holding you back.
That's good.
You want to move from here to there, or, we all want to live with more peace, or we all want to be better friends, but like, hang on, let's just pause and acknowledge where we fall down, and that I maybe for someone like me, who's an introvert, just like allowing that space for me to just be really honest first with myself. And then it's like, oh, turn to a partner and tell them, get a little vulnerable and express, and then at the end of something like that, hey guys, just let's confess. Like confession isn't this like heavy, confession is an aha moment that allows the Spirit to come in and then start to do something new. So those are specific.
Can I jump in? One of my favorite questions around that, you just triggered me, that we're starting to ask in a lot of our courses is like, if this thing is so important, because I think everybody agrees on whatever that is. So if prayer is so important for the Christian life, why do we do it so infrequently?
Right.
Yeah.
And just like framing it, if evangelism is so important to the mission of the church, why don't we do it more?
Right.
And then just letting that question sit and letting people go, oh, well, here's why I don't do it more, because this and this and this. And then, like you said, then just to confess. But I love that framing.
Yeah.
Like if this, because I think we all agree that this is important. And then we probably all agree we don't do it enough.
Right.
And so like, where is that gap? And I think naming the gap, helping people name the gap and confess the gap, is really good.
And doing that in a space with others, you see people's simple exercise. Everybody, we put up 6 broad categories of barriers. Come put a sticker on the 2 that are your top 2. And then everybody goes and sits down and it's like, oh, other people stickered. I am not the only one dealing with this. And so then there's this collective like, oh, okay, so we've all got that out of our system. And now we're going to move forward together and learn to do this differently. So
that's really cool. That's also a really good difference of the shift, because if you're just sitting in a room of like 500 people, 200 people, and you're hearing a message, obviously that's all still good. But it's very inspirational and aspirational.
Yeah.
And you can sit there and be like, I'm never going to do this.
Right.
I'm the only one, or like whatever.
Everybody else is doing this and I'm not. Like,
right. What am I supposed to do? You know? And just to instantly be rubbing shoulders with people that, I love it.
Yeah. The other thing that you brushed by, Sarah, that I just want to name again is that, I think inviting people to think about it from their own perspective. And, we've talked before here again about like that autobiographical moment of like, think about a time when you did X, Y, or Z, or when you struggled with X, Y, or Z or whatever. And as soon as you can, in a training environment, as soon as you can get somebody in an autobiographical moment like that, all of a sudden the information that they receive or the exercise that they do or the tool that like takes on, there's some statistic around it that's ridiculous, but like they'll remember 80% more after they've had a moment of autobiographical reflection, that whatever comes next after that, they'll remember or implement so much more than if you just like dive right into the material.
Because you've suddenly moved them past just their brain to like their heart. There's some sort of emotion attached to that. There's some sort of, feeling attached to that experience that they're remembering for themselves. And we are holistic people. And so I guess the breathing thing, any practices that we can incorporate that involve the entire self, mind, heart, body, all the things, I think. But again, they're not huge leaps. They're small. They're, those are small things that to implement that make a huge difference.
Yeah. I want to ask you both a question now. So from an organizational standpoint, think about our church overall. What has to change when a church starts prioritizing formation over attendance? So if we focus on formation and deprioritize attendance, what has to change? So you want to go first, Danielle?
I mean, this might seem weird, but I think the culture has to become a storytelling culture, and even like a celebratory culture.
Which we're not great
We're
at.
not.
No.
And that's why it sticks with me, because I'm like, if we can, and we'll get to that in another episode, but if we can like unlock that in gatherings and things like that, like a way to do that. Because even just thinking like you guys that are on the front lines of piloting all these trainings and things like that, you're good at, you guys are like so fired up, you're like telling all the stories. And then even for me, I'm like, cool, this is awesome. I'm so jazzed by it. But now I'm like, okay, now what? Who can know this and how can they know it? And, how can we celebrate those? Like, I called my neighbor. They hung up on me 20 times. We had breakfast the other day. Like, we have to like shift that culture. And I think we're trying, but I think it's going to be critical.
That's good.
That's my first one.
How about you? You have any thoughts on that?
I think it ties in with that. Like if we're calling people to, the everyday, everywhere, wherever they live, work, learn, and play, then we need to be able to equip and support for the live, work, learn, and play, which would include, hearing their stories, providing a way that people can tell their stories, but also like, how are we supporting them? What does it look like for us to know how to equip business leaders to live out God's story in the business? Or we need to learn, but we need to know and understand how to like support and encourage those things. So it's you've talked about this 100,000 times, from assimilation to multiplication, but like, the assimilation can't not still be good.
Yeah. It has to be great, actually.
It has to be great. But in that other side of the things, like, well, we're in ministry. We know how to do the ministry stuff. Do we know how to walk out these walls to support people the other 6 days of the week? And so I think it's been critical for us, and you guys have modeled this really well, of like, we will continue to learn. Yeah. We will continue to be informed by, we will, continue to grow outside these walls as ministry leaders just as much as we're asking people to go outside the walls and lead, I think that's critical.
Yeah, I think about simple steps like, because again, this podcast for ministry leaders, and so lots of people listening are ministry leaders. And so I think about like, even how do we adjust how we see our job? Like, what is my work? And, I think about the little I've done it a couple times now. I have to resist the urge to like require all of our staff to do this 3 times a week or something like that, because I'm fired up about it. But like to visit people in their places of work. And again, for small church pastors right now, they're like, duh, dude, we do this all the time. Or like to visit people in their home. And honestly, and it's not just that, like not just the visit, but then it's the connecting of dots of like, you visit somebody in their office and say, hey, show me around your floor, your whatever.
That's good.
And you go back to their office and go, how's Jesus showing up here?
Yeah.
And how are you bringing your faith into this place? And like just a couple of key questions like that. And all of a sudden dots are being connected, like even in somebody's home. Like what's God up to in your neighborhood?
Yeah, that's good.
Like if you walk into somebody's home and go, what's God up to in your neighborhood? And they're forced to wrestle with that question and go, oh, wow, I haven't thought about that. All right. Like to me, part of our thing is just like dot connectors. Go, Jesus isn't a Sunday deal. Like how is, so anyway, I think about that too. And just some like little, that's not a big organizational shift. No. But like for church leaders to be thinking about like, how do we view our work?
Yeah.
What's our job?
And even within the walls, we've been reigniting this, but thinking of our work more as like developing people first. And we've always been about this, but reigniting that. Even the people that are in your own ministry who are volunteering, they still have a life outside of your church.
That's right. Yeah.
So you can impact that through those channels as well if you're focusing on their development.
Yes.
Over the task that they're doing or whatever,
Yeah. Well, and it is a large church. Your span of care is finite. You can't do that for every person at the church, go to every place of business. But you do that for one, and then they then turn to their colleague and they're like, hey, how is God? They've got and suddenly, that starts, it's an aha. Yeah. It's an aha. Yeah. Like, oh, somebody, God cares. And he's working here.
It's good.
And he's not only working on Sundays.
Right.
No,
I don't have to like go find him on a Sunday once a week. Yeah.
All right. So let's name some tensions. The tensions between the need to grow wider, and I think all churches and ministries experience that. I mean, we want to grow. Like there's that's an element of like health and success, and like, is God really moving and working? Like numbers should be expanding. The tension between the need to grow wider and the need to grow deeper. And how do we think about those things and develop some sort of a healthy approach to those two sides of the coin?
To me, this tension just starts with it's and.
That's good. That's good.
Just looking at the Great Commission, making disciples of all nations. Well, right in there is the and of like deeper and wider. But we also have that example of from 11, after the crucifixion and resurrection to today, the church has managed to live in the tension. And it swings, right? The pendulum kind of swings a little bit back and forth between the two things of like, well, let's just get as many people. It's the awareness versus, like actually letting it settle in. So let's just make as many people as possible aware of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Let's just like put it out there, right? And media changed that, historically, not that this is a history lesson, but I think of like a Billy Graham, right? Sure. He's able to reach the whole world with the simple gospel of Jesus Christ. That's awesome. And then suddenly at the local level, I think that's where I feel like you've talked about this before, Derek, the difference between like the church in general and what we should be focused on. And I'm a local pastor.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's where the whole like shepherding the flock, pastoring, the people where God's placed you. I do think that's a challenge for us to like do the deep work of looking at what that means. So even with an eye to, if you're doing it well, it will grow. Right. You will need more parking.
Right.
If the deepening is going well, people will be so compelled.
That's right.
By Jesus that they will then invite, and it will grow wider. But
right. So my question always to house church pastors who don't like organized church is
Right.
to just say, what if it works?
Yeah, you
We're
have a
just going deep in my
responsibility.
living room. What if it works?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because if you go deep in your living room, guess what's going to happen? People are going to be drawn to that.
Yeah.
Like and those people that are going deep are going to start telling people about Jesus, because that's part of going deep, is that you actually tell people about Jesus. And then what if those people come to Jesus? And then what if your living room is too small? And then what if you have to need infrastructure and and so it's not. I love your "and" comment. You have any thoughts on that? What
That was
what
going to
are
be
some
my.
of the tensions?
I think. I mean, it was going to be mine. You said it way better than I was going to. But just, it's so much easier to choose to be black or white.
Yeah.
Right.
This like living in this gray tension is very difficult. But I think we have to continue to set our intention on that.
Yeah.
Because then we'll just fall into that whole pendulum thing Sarah was talking about. I think also, if I'm being 100% honest, some of the tension I feel is, I think there's a chance that some of us can attach certain like whims and preferences and things to the name of deeper or even,
Yes.
wider.
We can spiritualize our preferences.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like messing with stuff. And so I'm kind of like for myself, but also for other people, just kind of like looking out for that like a hawk, just kind of like,
Yeah.
where did that idea, where'd that idea come from? Or why do you feel that way? Or, those deeper questions about stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, that's really good.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and not even just preferences, but I even think about just like personal tradition. Like one of the conversations I've had recently is like people saying Grace isn't a praying church. I want a praying church.
Right.
And one of the recent conversations I had is here's how I translate it. So help me if I've got this wrong. But when people have said that to me in the past, here's typically what they've meant by that. They've meant Grace doesn't have a Wednesday night all church prayer meeting.
Okay.
It's a program request.
Right.
Sure.
Masked in spiritual language.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't think you measure whether a church is a praying church or not by whether they have a Wednesday night prayer meeting that the church is invited to. Yeah. I think there are other measures and metrics that determine whether. So it just goes to what you're saying. I think that we do need to watch out for those. The other common one is, I need the preaching to be deeper. I need deeper preaching. And
you guys need to get it together.
Exactly. But it's always like,
Just in the back.
we were just in the back again.
What more do you want?
But, coming from a person who's been a Christian for 25 years, and then it's like, hey, bro, guess what? Guess whose job it is for you to go deeper into the word? For you, not mine. It's your job. Like if you're not getting deep enough stuff from the scriptures yourself after 25 years of being a Christian, I can't help you.
I don't remember where I heard this, but someone had an object lesson for that. And they were like, how demeaned would you feel if I sat across a table from you and scooped the food up and put it in your mouth at a restaurant?
Right.
How like
as a grown adult. Yeah.
As two adults in their 40s.
Right.
And I am just.
Yeah. I need to be fed.
I'm literally feeding you because you just can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
But I think that, I think this "and" concept of just going wider and deeper, I think is right. And I think, just go back to Acts 2, 3, 4 and go. The church went from 120 to 3,120 in a day. And, the Bible talks about that transition and that they, and I imagine all of the it's not just the four of us at Mary's Bible study after, synagogue on Sunday. Right?
For real.
Now all of a sudden there's people beating down the door and because God was doing a work. And, I think you look at how they navigated that and it wasn't like, oh, no, we're not going to grow. Like we're going deeper or vice versa. There was this, I love reading that section of scripture through the lens of like, what did the Holy Spirit do and what did the apostles do in response?
Yeah.
And there's a synergy there.
Yeah.
There's a there's a movement. And then they met in the temple courts, they met from house to house. That was a new innovation that came from growth. And they were saying, we're going to go wider and deeper.
Yes.
And we're going to navigate this thing. And so I just like that picture.
Yeah. Well, and you think about Paul. He went into temples and started there. He also just went into the marketplace and did that, So there was like, hey, those of you who are Jewish, I want to take you deeper out in the, the expansion of it. But yeah, it's the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Intention. Anyway.
Sarah,
yes.
How has this journey toward depth changed your own walk with Jesus? So as we've been going through this as a church, organizationally, we've been in lots of rooms together where we're talking about making this shift, and it's easy to just think of these things as like program decisions. But I think as we're walking through this as followers of Jesus ourselves, and we're being affected by some of these changes that we're making on a big scale personally. What has that been like for you?
Good, hard, very stretching. I actually had this scripture come to mind in Psalm 16. This is David writing, and he says this, that the boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. And read that recently and was like struck by, what does he mean by those boundary lines? And this may be the wrong interpretation, but this is what I feel like God was saying. Like, I took this boy, from shepherd over sheep to like shepherd king over the whole of the nation, right? Guys, I'm not equating myself to King David, but that recognition of like, if we will follow, if we'll give it all up, he's going to stretch those boundary lines to places that you didn't think you were going to go, you know, preparing you all along the way. But like, and I've said this before, like, I think small, and God has repeatedly stretched that boundary for me over and over and over again. I mean, thanks to you guys and people, but yeah, it's just that willingness to like, okay, God, I'm going to follow, and where are you going to take me? And for me, he's stretching me from smaller to bigger. For other people, that might be like the reverse thing. Like, you have grandiose ideas about yourself. I'm going to pull you in. I want you to get a little,
that's a good point.
So I think it's like, how awesome is our God that he would personally call and move each of us, even while we're in the same church, on the same journey with the same mission to do the same thing. But yeah, for me, I just feel tremendously honored. And those boundaries are hard, but they are falling in pleasant places. Like, I am quite certain that this is the journey that not only I am on, but I'm on it with you guys. And so thank you.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think about a room we were in the other day that, we decided to, some of our team were saying, hey, because we're piloting all these new things, and some of the team were saying, hey, we need to know a little bit more about these classes. And so I decided, spur of the moment, in the moment, to just like pull one exercise out of the intentional friend class and just use it in the room. A little 5-minute, use it. And it was called the Now to Next prayer. And just said, okay, I want you to think about off friendship, a new one that you want to build, an existing one that you want to deepen, or a broken one that you want to restore.
Yeah.
So call one of those names to mind, and we're just going to pray for them this Now to Next prayer. We're going to identify, where are they now? What could breakthrough look like, and where might they be next?
Yeah.
And the room is in tears.
Yeah.
And it's this moment of just like, all of us, we're just like weeping, praying for our friends, and just going, this shift for us from going, we're not just going to be about, we're going to create stuff that allows people to actually integrate their faith into their daily life. And when I see even what it's doing to our leaders and to me and to you, and like as we're walking through this, it's just such a cool thing. So anyway, church leaders who are listening, we've shared a lot of really, really, really practical stuff today. And I would just encourage you, if you're, still kind of chasing numbers and making sure that the attendance is up and to the right every week, man, would you just experiment with one of these things that we talked about, like even just building a rhythm into a training, or doing an autobiographical moment, or that question, if this is so hard, why do we do it so infrequently, and open up a moment for some confession or whatever. I just think taking one of those little steps and seeing the power of going, we're going to lean into formation, into depth versus just growth, I think would be a great step to take. So Sarah, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate you.
Pleasure.
Okay, so let's move on to our behind the curtain segment. This is something we just like to share, something that we're actually doing at Grace in real time. We already talked about Christmas earlier in the episode, but something that happened with our staff this past week. We have these things called development hours where, what is it, once a month? Don't quote me. Once every other month, something like that. Anyway, every once in a while.
Something like that.
Yeah, we do like an hour where we focus on, we really wanted to turn our attention to the idea of like development as individuals, as staff members, and just lifting up that competency for everybody.
Yep.
So we're having development hours where we focus on different things. And this week's was on mind mapping our job descriptions. Another word for some people might say like concept mapping or spider diagram, but basically it's that idea of those bubbles, like a bubble connected to another bubble divided up.
Yep.
And so you want to talk a little bit about how we did
So I realized that, because it was funny as we were coming back, because this is like a follow-up to some of the training we've been doing around Untapped Church, and how do we equip, develop, resource volunteer leaders in our church. And so we kind of followed up that study with these 4 skills that we're now training. And so mind mapping, it's not obvious right off the bat how that applies to developing volunteers.
Right.
But it is very much connected. And I realized that my dumb way of saying it, that I said it in my book.
That's funny.
I talked about breaking big jobs down into small jobs.
Yeah.
And that's basically what mind mapping
is.
And like there's a lovely thing to call it, and I called it breaking big jobs down into small jobs. But when you think about it, that is deeply connected to our ability to recruit and empower volunteers, because until we can get our jobs down into pieces that can be given away or that we're good at and can do, we don't necessarily have names for what we're inviting people to participate in. And so, and obviously the flip side of that is just helping to empower people in what God's called them to do. But when it comes to this kind of like moving the church forward, we have these jobs that need to be done, and in order to get people to or to allow people to serve in those ways, we need to break those jobs down into smaller jobs. And so the mind mapping thing is a way to do that. And I just think that Aaron presented some great tools for us to consider, and basically everybody just took their job description. Our job descriptions are pretty simple here, with three or four points, and basically just had us create a center, for those jobs, and then out of that circle came a series of 4 or 5 circles that are connected to that job, and says what are all the things you have to do to get that job done. And it just breaks it down and breaks it down and breaks it down into its smallest units.
I think the cool thing too, there's a couple of other things that happen. One is we've talked about this. One of the barriers to like finding volunteers is feeling like you don't have the capacity to do so.
Right.
And so this really helps you see on paper, what actually am I responsible for?
Right.
Because job descriptions, ours are really good. I think ours are really effective. But even so, like it can just you can get out of scope.
Just words
you can
on
get
a page.
You can make it be something it isn't. You can, it can go all kinds of ways. So it also helps, I think, like center the person around what are the most important things that we need to accomplish here, or I need to accomplish here. And then in some ways it's counterintuitive, because as we were doing it, I was thinking like, okay, we're getting down to like task. Like once you start branch, eventually you start to get to like actual tasks.
Right.
And that's not the point.
Right.
But then the cool thing is when you see it, then you can like reverse engineer and cluster like, okay, this is an ownership area.
Yeah.
That's how my brain works. Like he tried to get us to ownership at the beginning, but I had to like go all the way out and then pull back in.
Yep.
But I think that's a cool way too, to like, then you're inviting people to something that it's a pie piece they can own.
Yep. That's right.
Versus like, can you make the copies? Yeah, you might make copies. Yeah. It might be part of it, but you're owning the health of the office team or whatever.
That's right, And the other thing that it does, I think, for the person doing that exercise, and again, it did for me as well, is you start to kind of branch it out, is then it forces you to ask a question for yourself, not just for the volunteers, but for yourself. Like, what are the things only I can do?
Yes,
and
that's
a question that we ask, a lot around here.
Yeah.
But it's like, what are the pieces of this that really I need to do, or only I can do?
Yeah.
And then once you've identified that, you could even like color in those parts of the pie or whatever. That's just like, that's me. I know that's me. Then that's what also allows you to go, okay, so some of this other stuff I could give away. Like I don't have to do this.
Right.
either because it's outside my scope of gifting, or it's I know somebody who could do that really well.
Yep.
But I think that's the other value of it. It helps you really say, here's the stuff that only I can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good exercise. We were talking too on our team just about, I think that was our team or somebody on my team, about just the idea of like, it's not really fair to say like, you put the time in now and you get the time back later. That is a little bit true because you can put more time into your passion area or whatever. But really what you're doing is you're right sizing and trading. So you're saying like, this is the thing that only I can do, or the things that only I can do. And then these are the people now that I'm going to develop to do the other things. So you switch from like, maybe this is just a small, stupid example, but let's say you only have 4 tasks in your job description. By turning those other 3 tasks, keeping one, and turning those other 3 tasks into ownership areas, you're then trading time. It's less time,
right?
But you are spending time developing the people.
Right.
But I think that's a trade-off because then, or it's a good trade-off because then they can do the same thing.
That's right.
And develop more people, same thing. It's what's going to make the
it's a way you expand the ministry.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you're right, there is a time trade-off. I do think that the time trade-off is big up front,
right?
And then it gets
decreases
as we go, as people get more comfortable in those roles. Although then you do get into the pattern of having to replace that role sometimes. So there always will be time to recruit, equip, help people to step into those roles. But you're trading the time from doing it yourself, which is then allowing more people to participate in the ministry.
Right.
And like I was like, on Sunday afternoons when I go home with my tongue hanging out after a long day and cry on my chair because God let me do this again and I got to see impact that God used me, that we get to invite more people into that moment.
Yeah, it's totally
and there's nothing more compelling than to go, I got to be used by God.
Yeah, totally.
And if we can share that moment with more and more people, man, the church.
Oh, it's so awesome. Yeah,
the church comes alive.
Agreed. Okay.
I just made a note to myself. We'll try to include the link or something in the show notes about mind mapping, just so people could have it's a common thing out there that people can probably just Google it, but we can show them maybe one of the tools that we use on that.
Great. Yeah, good idea. Okay, cool. All right. So speaking of tools, let's move on to our last segment, tips and tools. You have, sorry, I made you talk so much during that. I'm realizing you have, your tool today is 4 surprisingly simple practices that fuel development.
Yep.
So this will go right along with what we just talked about.
And actually, it is related to this mind mapping thing because it is one of the workshops that I'm leading in this same series. Yeah. And so when we're talking about, what are some of the skills that we need to develop to help develop volunteers, these are some of the development skills, the 4 of them that I came up with. I'm calling them 4 surprisingly simple practices because really when we think about like developing volunteers, again, it's not just recruiting people.
Right.
It's going, and it's not just handing off tasks. It's not just delegating tasks. We're saying we want our leaders to be developing people. And developing people means there is a task component, but there is you're discipling that person component too. And so how do we do those 2 things? And so these are 4 practices that I think help us do that. And they are quite simple. Yeah. And so we're including the tool. I'm not going to cover it all right now. I'll just give one little snapshot. The 4 simple practices are intentional encouragement, catalytic conversations, on-time training, and candid feedback. And so we're just kind of building out what does it look like to do those 4 things on a semi-regular rhythm with people that we lead. And I just have a hunch that development is downstream from those 4 practices.
These are good.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we can just keep those kinds of things in the rhythm, we will be developing people. And so, for example, I'll just give you I'll pick out one of them, on-time training.
Yeah.
So there's, obviously we do lots of upfront training and trying to equip people for what they're doing, but on-time training. So I know that, I did the 13-year plan of seminary. Okay. So shout out Shout out Ted, Trinity Evangelical Divinity School that doesn't exist anymore in Chicago. But yeah, 13 years.
They probably don't exist anymore because they came everywhere. They traveled everywhere for everybody.
There were lots of remote sites.
Yeah.
They were before their times in that.
Yeah,
honestly.
they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so yeah, my master's degree was through TEDS, but I remember comparing that as I was going through it to my undergrad degree. So I got my undergrad degree in both in Bible and philosophy, but very ministry focused.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing ministry.
Right.
So I got my education, I got my training, but I wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And the 13-year plan was because I was in it.
Because you're in it, yeah.
And so taking classes when you're in it is way different. And so it's that concept that go, like, as people are in it, as your volunteers are in ministry, like as soon as they feel the pressure of like, oh crap, I don't know what to do, or I'm out of my depth, or how do I have that conversation, to be able to have ready training at that moment is way more effective.
Oh yeah, and then
they remember it.
Yeah.
They'll never forget it almost. And so trying to figure out how do we build in those on-time training opportunities as people hit those moments of, oh man, I need. And so my example is like, as we've had people on our staff leading more and more of these trainings, it's like you ask them to do a training for our whole staff and they have this, oh no, where do I start?
Yeah.
What do I do? What? And then we followed that up with, we got the 4 of them in a room with me who does lots of trainings and goes, here's a simple template for how to prepare. And I could see the relief. Okay, I've got something to work with. But good. Now those people know, you know what I mean? And so, but it was on time. If we had front loaded that and took our whole staff through a how to lead a training, nobody would remember it. Yeah. But when it's on time, when the pressure's on, I'm feeling now all of a sudden it is very meaningful.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
That's a little bit of a riff on the on-time training when there's 3 other practices. The tool that we'll include will also include lots of detail around those.
That's really cool. Yeah, it'd be like if you taught a 12-year-old driver's ed.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what are we doing?
Right. And 4 years from now when they need it, they'll have forgotten everything.
Just have to do it again.
Yeah, right.
You're wasting time.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, cool. All right, I think that's it for today. If you like this episode, you can tell us by leaving a rating or review. The most important thing you can do is share it with somebody who you think might need it. And you can find detailed show notes and related resources over at dereksanford.com/reinventingchurch. That's where you can also subscribe to his weekly newsletter, get all the latest free tools and posts. Well, sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.